Welcome to today's episode of Exploring You, our podcast to help you navigate the personal development jungle. Our guest today, Pauline Stiles, openly talks about the traumas in her life, starting in the womb of her mom to sexual abuse in her teens and various accidents in adult life. Together, we explore how trauma energy is stored as implicit memory in the body and how our nervous system is a guide in understanding how we behave. Do you feel on edge all the time, or are you trying to fly under the radar, hoping not to be seen? Then join us in today's episode and learn more about compassionate inquiry and body therapy to heal your trauma.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Exploring You, our podcast which is all matters mental health and health and well-being. Get it right in the right way order. Today's my name is Darren Alexandra of the Mind Core CIC and Elysium NLP, and my compadre is
Alexandra Katzer. I'm a nature coach and forest bathing guide, helping people to disconnect to reconnect with themselves.
And today's guest is Ms. Pauline Stiles. Hi, Pauline. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hello.
Hello, Pauline.
Hello.
So, Pauline, the first thing I'm going to say is, who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm not a Chelsea fan. Is that their song?
Sound like one.
Who am I? Well, there's a question, isn't it? You know, who are any of us?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
already started.
We're going there
Go
yet
on.
or not?
We're
Not
going
yet.
already there. Go on. Who are you then?
Well, who am I? Who am I today? I am a podcaster today, a guest on a podcaster. No, so my work is about healing, helping people that are suffering with their mental, physical, emotional health, using the work of the big G, Gabor Mate, compassionate inquiry, which is a very gentle, healing approach, body oriented, beautiful, really, really good way to get into the origins of some of our madnesses as adults. I say madnesses as, you know, very lightly, you know, because it is. No, I'll stop there.
We're all mad. Don't worry.
I know. Beautiful madness. We live in this beautiful madness, don't we? But I call myself a body therapist and what do I call myself? Pauline. And a body therapist and a compassion coach. So I help people tell the story of their body. So people that have suffered body trauma, we get into the sort of sensations and the stuff that's stored in the body, unprocessed. And then compassion coaching is helping people have a better relationship with themselves. You know, I've witnessed a lot of people who've suffered a lot then perpetuate that suffering by being unkind to themselves, being judgmental and critical towards themselves, especially when they're in their most vulnerable and deepest pain. So that side of things is about supporting a new, loving and healthy relationship.
When you talk about suffering, can you give some examples?
Well, as the Buddha said, life is suffering. Suffering. So mentally, you know, we're in a mental health crisis, aren't we? You know, young children are committing suicide, and then that, you know, it goes across the board. Women suffer, men suffer. We're suffering as human beings. Physically, people are in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. Emotionally, people are doing all kinds of things to not feel their pain, which perpetuates more pain. So, I mean, it feels endless, the suffering. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what can we do about it? And I would like to hope that by feeling some of the pain, it helps to heal it. And then this new relationship that I support people with and I've created for myself, the suffering is less. It doesn't go away 100%, but it becomes less and shorter lived. And I'm just more resourced when I get triggered into these painful places.
Is it more about managing the pain, or is it kind of releasing it?
It's more about being with it.
Okay.
So there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to, people don't need to be rescued. They just need to be held in their pain. And it's a beautiful gift that you can give anybody. You were talking earlier about when Alexandra calls you and, you just listen. That's a beautiful gift. Just hold someone in their pain, because we have wisdom within us, all of us do, that knows the answers to our particular dilemmas. And if there's enough space created for me to, get rid of the top layers of stuff, that wisdom has a chance to come through.
And I also feel this holding pain and that helps us to release it as well. So we are sitting with the pain instead of constantly distracting ourselves by alcohol or smoking or going on a retail therapy or binge eating or binge watching TV shows. So really understanding that, holding this pain and sitting with the emotions and slowly dissolving these emotions as well, I feel. And I love Gabor Mate. He's such an amazing trauma specialist, and he has great YouTube videos as well. I love his teachings, and I also find it so interesting. He says the suffering we have in the world, the shape the world is in at the moment, that is trauma as well. That is all based on trauma stuck in people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that war inside, isn't it? I'm in pain, I'm in suffering, and then I'm, like I said before, judging or criticizing myself, expecting myself to be different or more or less or whatever. That's my own internal war. And we're all, well, I don't know that, but generally we're not as kind to ourselves as we could be. Just imagine if everybody really looked after themselves and cared for those moments when they felt really vulnerable and really scared or really angry or really sad. If we all just looked after ourselves, we'd be way more available for everybody else. But we get these funky dynamics, and I speak for myself that, my childhood, decided that I'd be the responsible one, do everything, and that would make everyone happy, and then everybody would relax, and then when everyone else is relaxed, I can then relax. That sort of worked when I was little. It doesn't work anymore.
We met, as we said, about 15 or so years ago, so we've known each other quite a long time. When I first met you, you were doing Pilates. So it's how important that is as a fitness, how that can relate to. Do you find that helps with what you do now? This, obviously we talk the mind-body connection. So does the Pilates come into what you do as well?
Yeah. So, I've been doing Pilates now for 18 years, and it's movement. We have this body that moves in a certain way. Call it Pilates, call it yoga, call it Tai Chi, call it whatever. They all have their different ways, but at the end of the day, a joint can only move in a certain way, and my wrist can only do this. So, but for me personally, that journey of teaching Pilates and going down that route has helped me release some of the trauma that's been stuck in my body. I went into it from an injury. I used to teach a lot of exercise, and on the outside looked pretty fit and healthy, but on the inside, my core muscles weren't working efficiently. And one of my lumbar discs went into a bulge, got sciatica down both legs, and in quite a lot of pain. But luckily the physio that I had at the time, she said, if you do Pilates, well, do Pilates initially, get well, and then go and do a course, and I'll give you some work. So she's a bit of an earth angel in my world. Belinda Jones, she's very good. Anyone in Ashtead, she's there.
Shout out.
Yeah, a little shout out to Belinda. Because even before I knew this stuff, as I used to go through my Pilates journey and do sort of, as my body learned to get stronger on the inside, the outside could relax a little bit more, which released some stuff. And I used to get like memories come up and think, oh, I hadn't thought about that for ages, and never really thought about it much at the time. But now I know different, that, you know, there was stored memory in different parts of my body that on certain movements got to release out of my system. Fascinating.
And I also find it so fascinating that, especially if you have experienced trauma in the early years of your childhood, like up to 4 years old, it's all implicit memory. It's all memory that is stored in your body. And it's very challenging to release these emotions or these memories on a cognitive level. And that's why I think body therapy, when it comes to trauma, is a wonderful tool to support the healing process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because in those early years, we didn't have, the part of our brain, and don't quote me, I'm not a doctor, but the part of our brain that stores memory. So we have what you said, implicit memory, body memory, sensations, sensations that don't have meaning to them at that time. And so can I be present to that when they come up? But, our mind wants to make meaning of everything. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean? Whereas the body, our body's pretty wise, isn't it?
And it said, these feelings, these images and these memories, and that can go right back to being in the womb. It's how far back it goes. When you said that before, it made me think when there's a woman pregnant, you do tend to say, don't get them upset because the baby will feel it. So you are passing on those feelings from that very get-go, aren't you?
It goes through it goes through the placenta from the mother. So how the mother feels affects the baby. And part of my trauma, my mum had a fall when she was pregnant with me at 27 weeks and ended up in hospital and had to stay there till I was born at 39 weeks. So 12 weeks, complete bed rest, not knowing if I was going to survive or come early. And all of that create anxiety and panic and fear that, as I understand this work, I feel that a lot. I feel afraid all the time. And it's like, I'm not sure I've ever not been afraid. But I just push on through, or sometimes I get completely overwhelmed by it. And did it stem from the womb? I mean, I can't change that. But I can change my relationship to it. Like, acknowledge that when some of the panic and the fear that comes up sometimes, just hold that, I've been pregnant, so just hold my belly, hold my embryo, my pregnant baby, which sounds nuts, but it's true. Like, just, you're safe. I'm safe. Safe. It's okay.
You don't mind me asking, did you ever feel that was there any particular feelings when you were having Amy? Did any kind of like triggers come from that when you were pregnant?
In what respect?
So, when you talk about all the emotions and everything you're feeling, like when your mum had the fall, and now that's passed on, did anything come from any stresses when, your normal stresses when you're pregnant, but was there anything outside of that you could recognize now when you were pregnant?
Yeah, I was attacked from behind when I was 3 months pregnant. Wow. And yeah, as I go into this research of, the baby, and I wonder if that has left an impact on my daughter, who feels very attacked in the world sometimes. Has that, I don't know. And that will be her journey. That's her journey. because obviously she's not going to listen to me, is she? Because I'm just her mum. But I do wonder about that. And, you know, as a mother, I carry guilt, you know, all of that comes with it. But I learn daily to just keep it separate. You know, again, I can't take on everything that doesn't belong to me. As I say, that's her journey. But yeah, I mean, throughout the pregnancy, you know, the dad didn't stick around. So there's rejection and abandonment. I'm kind of okay with that. But again, I can see that as wounding in her. Time will tell, Darren, time will tell.
Hopefully. Do you actually do any work with Amy around that? Is it, I mean, I know sometimes we can't work with somebody who's so close to us. Does anything come across that you work with Amy on?
No.
Okay.
We're not quite at that stage at the moment.
No, fair enough.
Do you remember being 22?
I think I was drunk then. I think I was way drunk.
Would you have listened to your mum if she said, you know, there's wounding inside of you, Darren? I think you need to work on it. What would you have said to that?
I need another beer. Back at 22, I might have said something different now, but back then I probably just said I'll have another beer. It's fine. But we do, you know, that's kind of the thing. What we do, isn't it? We kind of dismiss everything and just it'll go away, especially with men. You know, that's the whole point about this, is being able to be more open to see what's available out there. And obviously your stuff, is a lot different than what, you know, with some of the other things. We see a lot of coaching in particular, or counseling. But yours kind of goes on a different level, doesn't it?
It goes very deep, and not everyone wants to go very deep. I'm not sure I would have wanted to go deep. I can't believe where I am today from how I know, you know, I'm a minimizer and a denier, and to just push on through kind of coping mechanism. Oh, it's all right. I've got it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And as we all know what fine means. Do you know what fine means?
Absolutely not. But go on. You
tell.
Have
you not heard this? Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well put.
Not heard that before.
Actually, I could think of some things, but I was like, I know what's coming here. I just know what's coming. But no, it is. We are, as human beings, to a certain extent, we do just push it aside. You know, I know certainly before I was doing NLPs that a lot of the time, from my trauma from being a child and etc., it's pushing it aside, just get on with it. With many particular, they feel it's a weakness to be able to open up or go into that deepness. But then when I've spoken to guys and I find they tend to, I won't say slip up, but they kind of say things that they would not normally say. So they might have been talking about abuse as a child. So with the guys, they won't share that normally. You've got to be able to get that connection with them. And at some point, I suppose in a way it is a slip up. They kind of say it without having to know they've said it. But like I say, it's that deeper level of going into to be able to get to the nooks and cranny of what's going on.
And that boils down to safety. It's a safety thing.
Yeah. But it's also that trust, though, isn't it? You've got to have the trust to be able to say that. And I think a lot of the time when you've had that trauma, especially when it's been abuse, you find you can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome that?
We have to want to.
Well, the biggest thing is getting someone to get, for them to be able to change, they've got to want to change. But also there's that secondary gain that they're holding on to it for a particular reason. I remember doing my NLP training, and one of my trainers, Kim, we were doing a certain intervention, and she was like, trying to get me to trust people. And I'm like, no, you know, it basically what she had me do in my mind, you know, you've got your eyes closed, you're kind of in that slight hypnotic trance, and you're thinking, I'm not doing what you want. And that's what you wanted me to do, was turn me back and walk away. When there's ever an issue, just turn your back and walk away. It doesn't mean anything. But like, I can't do that. I feel unsafe turning me back, because then I'm going to get hit in the back. I'll get the knife in the back. I'll get the head, you know, the cricket bat over the head. So it's hard to be able to open up and say, well, because you've got to have that trust, and you can't get that trust straight away. So that's like a safety mechanism in itself.
And a lot of our trauma from young, we didn't have anyone to tell. You know, a bad thing happened, and sometimes not even the bad thing that happened. It's just we didn't have anybody to speak to about it. So as young people, we blame ourselves. Must be my fault. I must deserve it. I must be a bad person. You know, all that type of flavor of stuff. No one to tell. So you're left alone with all the physicality, the mental beliefs and perspectives, and that's more traumatic.
And
because
I think it's
a precedence.
Yeah, and that's why I feel it's so important then to have a support or a coach or a like body therapist, where you can build the trust and you start to learn to trust someone again. But also, because of the connection, you learn to regulate your nervous system as well, and you learn how to can bring yourself in balance again, so that the negative emotions or the feeling don't overtake you. And one step for me is also very important, the awareness, what you mentioned before as well, to first become aware that you are in stress mode, and that you realize the point where you notice, okay, now I need to get my nervous system back into balance. And like you said, it's all around safety. And if you haven't learned that in your childhood, what it means to be safe, what it means to be, what it means to have stress or to deal with stress, because your parents might have been stressful themselves and completely disbalanced in their nervous system, it's very challenging for yourself then as an adult to regulate yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's wired, isn't it? You know, wired for vigilance, wired for not turning your back because someone's going to give you a whack. That becomes exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting to be vigilant.
It's all how your nervous system is wired. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also exhausting carrying that issue around with you for so long. You've got to be able to, you know, it just gets beyond a joke to some extent when you've carried that on for so long. Like you say, if you've come at it from an early part in your childhood, and now you're 35, 45, 55, you know, at what point do you say enough's enough?
Well, that's it. So that's sort of when I get my clients, you know, they've got to the point of it's too much. Whatever their coping strategy, they can see that it's really not working anymore. And so we just gently do the inquiry into the origins and build the compassion, because the origin is a young part of them. 4, 3, 5, in some probably awful situation. The kid did what they had to do to survive that, and maybe had to do that over and over and over and over and over again. 30, 40, 50 years later, the system's wired for that, yet they could be in a loving relationship, they're safe and sound, you know, but the system's still, because it's wired into the brain, and it can be changed, but it's slow.
But they've created that habit, though, haven't they? They've created the habit of continually doing that, so it becomes automatic.
Yeah, they haven't created it. It's a nervous system thing.
Exactly, and the nervous system runs automatically. And you need to create the awareness what is happening. You need to learn to realize, okay, in which state of the nervous system am I? and 80% of the time we are more in the sympathicus, or in the stress
Fight or flight,
response, fight and flight, and only 20% in the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's to understand which system are you in, or which mode are you operating in at the moment.
And there's other, in part of my work, I work with the polyvagal theory. I don't know if you've heard of that. And Stephen Porges, there's these 3 different parts in his work, and basically we have one where we're safety, the ventral, so where we're sort of up. They use a ladder analogy. So imagine at the top of a ladder and you're looking out over the world or the view, and you're safe, you're connected, you can see the possibility of life, that kind of flavor. Then we come down the ladder to the sympathetic, to the fight or flight, which is energy. When it's healthy, it's energy, brings us a bit of energy. And then there's down into the dorsal, which is rest and digest. So again, when we're healthy, when we're using that, because we oscillate between all 3 all the time, our body's digesting our food and, bringing rest to our system. But we get stuck we tend to have a home from home. So some of us get stuck in fight or flight, and you'll be very aware of those types of people. Looking for a fight, those type of people. I said that.
Are you hinting at me there?
Well, I was looking right at you.
I know, exactly. That's what I was waiting for. She's waiting for me to say something. I know you were.
But I'm joking. But there's energy in them. There's energy and vigilance. That they're on. Whereas when someone's stuck in dorsal, they're in a bit of a shutdown. They're small. They're invisible. They're really trying to hide. Get under the quilt and completely disappear. And through some of the work we do, we sort of map out the nervous system so people get to understand their own system. And then, as you were saying, Alexandra, then they can recognize where they're at and do what they need to do to come back to this place of safety and connection.
And I find it also interesting, before you actually get into fight and flight, the thing you do is you look for connection. You look for someone to connect to get this safety and security. And if you realize this is not happening, that's when you then get into fight and flight mode, or into shutdown.
Into the coping strategy of whatever you had to do to survive the early years.
You've got a wealth of experience. So, in all the stuff that you've done, you've got your compassionate inquiry practitioner, you've done your NLP, although, you mentioned earlier, you kind of moved on from that. IFS and SE, what is those?
So I'm IFS informed, so internal family systems, which is this idea that there's parts of us. We're not just a one. There's part of me that's angry. There's part of me that's sad. There's part of me that's afraid. And then they all have their own little personalities and the way they cope. To be honest, as I said earlier, I love the idea of parts, and it's really helpful. But it can as well, for me, be a bit cognitive. So keep someone in their head. Oh, is it this part? Is it that part? Rather than get into the sensations of the body. So I am IFS informed, but it's not really my go-to. And then the SE is the somatic experiencing, which is the body stuff. Again, I'm just informed. I'm not fully qualified in that. But I have just finished a course in MDMA assisted therapy.
Funny enough, we were talking about that with Dan yesterday. So
yeah, wow, amazing.
Right. Is he doing it, or has he received it, or?
I think he said he'd received it, didn't he?
Right.
Yes. If I remember rightly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he also microdosed with a client once. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have, my physio Belinda Jones, shout out again.
I have to get her on the list and have her on a podcast.
Yeah,
just on her own.
She, back in 2017, she said to me, I think you've got complex post-traumatic stress. And I was like, what? Of course I haven't. You know, I don't want to make a fuss. Nothing wrong with me. I'm fine, you know. But because I trust her, talking about trust, because I trust her wisdom, I trust her knowledge, I thought, you know, I will live in that being a possibility. So I started to do my research. I wrote out the traumatic things that had happened to me, and it was a bit like, yeah, maybe I have, which was hard to accept that hard things had happened that I hadn't dealt with. And I mean, I smile because it's a ridiculous long list. And, you know, I would say, no, you know, it's vets that have the post-traumatic stress. I mean, look what they've been through. You know, mine's not that bad. It's not that bad. You know, good old, it's not that bad. And yeah, you know, so I sort of went back through my trauma timeline. And shall I share the highlights?
Please, if you want to. If
Well,
you're all right with that,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. I'm fascinated. I'm leaning it. I'm actually interested in all this. You know, carry on.
See, trauma, my happy place. Yeah, so, and I'm going to name all of the things, but I know some are normal traumas. Now, I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say, but you know, you'll know what I mean. So when I had my daughter, well, when my daughter was 3.5, we went to Sri Lanka for a holiday, and there was a tsunami. So we go on holiday and we get caught in a tsunami.
Yeah, like that's normal. Yeah, carry on.
So, you know, so that's one. So then the childbirth was pretty awful. Ended up having 4 pints of blood because, you know, it was a horrible affair. So that wasn't so great. My mum died the year before that, or 18 months before that, from cancer. So the trauma of watching my beloved mum suffer and all of that. I left a job that I'd been at for 15 years. I started my own business. Keep going back. So where am I? I'm in my 20s. So in my early 20s, I was in a building that was bombed. Went to work, the building got bombed. I left the building, and there was another bomb in the bin outside at the meet-up point, which went off just meters in front of me. Go back age 19, I'm in a car accident that, you know, I get in the back of a van that loses control, spins, does a head-on, I'm thrown around, I'm left because I don't look like there's anything wrong with me. And by the time they get me into the hospital ward, 8 hours later, I've got a lacerate. I've been internally bleeding for 8 hours. Lacerated liver, broken ribs. Go back even further. So when I was 15, I went to a party and I was raped by a boy there. Never told anyone that till I was in my 40s, because I always blamed myself. It's my fault. Take a breath there. When I was 12, I witnessed my dad being violent towards my sister. You know, he literally punched her like she was a man. And you know, so there was a bit of that kind of stuff. And then I started to get it. It's like, maybe I have got PTSD, complex PTSD. Some stuff's happened. And then, you know, as I then found Gabor and all kinds of other people and learned about trauma, you know, it comes from the early years, and then it kind of just repeats itself. And as I said to you earlier, when my mum was pregnant with me, she fell at 27 weeks, had to be hospitalized, complete bed rest till I was born. My older sister was 4 at the time, had her mum taken away from her. So the next time she sees her mum, I'm with her, and she hates me. It's innocent 4-year-old hate. My sister's nearly 60. She still hates me. Sad, you know. So, and so then I'm born into this hatred, anxiety, and fear. I have accidents, so I fell out my pram. I had to have my lips stitched up. I mean, I don't remember any of this, but they don't give babies pain relief, so they would have done that without pain relief. I then cut my hand when I was 7, so it kind of makes me go, no shit, I'm scared. So it gives me a little bit more understanding of myself. It doesn't take the fear away, but I can be a little bit kinder towards myself when I get into situations that trigger the real trauma, which is generally in a car. Like I have a real problem driving, being a passenger.
I remember you.
Yeah,
I do remember. Yeah.
And so to come full circle to the point, MDMA, there's so much research about helping PTSD. And I have had a session. I have had one session as being the participant and or the client. And then after that, I did a little drive somewhere that I wouldn't normally do in the dark. You know, everything was up against me. All my signs of danger were there. But I was like, okay, quite enjoying this. And I think, has that worked? Has something happened that my body's healed, but my brain's still telling me the old story, you know, that same old story. So because of that, I've then gone on to learn to facilitate that. So that's next year, that's going to be one of my offerings, because it's a beautiful thing to be witness to someone on the medicine, which I don't know if you've ever taken MDMA. It's a very heart-opening, you know, it creates this rush of serotonin. So a person's very open. And so you can talk to them about some painful stuff and it gets to be processed without it feeling so awful, yet it gets processed.
And then also a new neural pathway is created that helps you overcome your experience. I have done ayahuasca. I've traveled around Central America and I've done ayahuasca ceremonies with a shaman from Peru. And I saw my childhood. I saw how I felt. Like I saw this kid sitting on the floor, toys swirling around in the air and kids' music playing. But it was very heavy, very painful, very no joy. And I observed it. And then I realized, oh my God, that is me. That is how I felt all these years. Because I've been in hospital in and out, and like the first time in hospital when I was 6 months old. Last time I came out of hospital when I was 4 years old. My hips, like I was born with a hip dislocation, so my hips were fixed in plaster. I was had operations constantly, and you realize what this little girl suffered through this experience. And like you said, you feel a lot of compassion for yourself and love, and you open up more and more. And I think I also realized throughout the ceremony, I got to a point where I just turned around, went into fetus position and thought, I can't handle this anymore. I just let it happen to me. And only 4 weeks later, I realized, oh my God, that is a deeply rooted limiting belief system I have within me. I don't have control over my life. I just let life happen to me. And that was such a huge aha moment. And I've done coaching before, and I'm not sure if I would have gotten to this conclusion without ayahuasca, because you really get a different experience and it completely changes you. So that's why I find it fascinating that you work with MDMA. Yeah.
I'm afraid to take ayahuasca because so many people are sick, aren't they? And I think, oh, I don't want to. Don't want all that.
Well, she's done it 4 times, so she's got used to it now. She's not sick anymore. She was only done that once.
No, only the first time, and then the rest was okay. I think important is that you feel safe in the environment. When you do it, and I felt very supported through the shamans, and it was a very trusting environment where you were able to open up as well.
So I think sometimes with these deep, very young traumas, I don't think there's any coaching approach that's going to get there, because we can't get there ourselves. Because it's in a place where our mind, our brain, our memory wasn't on. It wasn't that, I don't know what it's called, but the part of us that holds memory wasn't there. So the psychedelics, I think, do just push to get closer, don't they? I mean, I don't know that much about them, other than, the MDMA, which is my preferred one, because it's predictable-ish. Whereas the ayahuasca, the mushrooms, the what's the other one? LSD, that sort of stuff. That is the psychedelic, and it's my fears again of losing control, and where's that going to take me? Whereas with the MDMA, it's very safe medicine. We've been led to believe it's so dangerous, but in therapeutic dose, it's very safe, and it's predictable. It gives a rush of serotonin. If you've got a rush of serotonin and, all the good stuff, you feel pretty good.
Yep. What's tipping point? So we're talking about tipping points, and where did you get to in order to be able to say, right, enough's enough, we've got to change something here? Where was it for you, and where do you see it with your clients?
Well, I think when Belinda said, I think you've got CPTSD, that was a moment where it's like I had to stop running. I had to, because I'd suffered with a lot of physical pain, chronic pain for years, and I've had a car accident, I've got a disc injury, my pelvis is rotated, I've got a bit of a scoliosis. There were good factual reasons why I was in pain, but a lot of that pain was emotional. So I think that was the start of opening a brand new door. So I didn't really know much about trauma, because I wasn't going to go there. I had no memories, I had the odd one, wasn't great. Why would I go back there? And that's the thing. Why would any of us go back there? It's painful. But it's painful to not go back there at some point in our lives, because the running is exhausting. The coping mechanisms, whether it be addictions or relationships or, whatever it is, it's exhausting. It doesn't sit right in the body, and potentially causes illness, doesn't it? It causes illnesses. So that was my tipping point. Kicking and screaming, I've had to, at some level, had to learn to be kind to myself. There's a belief system in me that when I'm hating on myself, that's a form of love, because my older sister hated me. But I don't know any different, because I'm a baby, I'm a child, I'm a tiny person. So this behavior must be love. And so some of the abusive things I've done to myself feel like love until they don't feel like love anymore. But it's been hard to unravel that and to see, I still do things like that, especially if I get triggered. But with my clients, again, I think they're just in so much pain that they can't tolerate the pain anymore. So it's kind of they'll do anything. So that tends to be the tipping point.
Is it kind of, have you kind of accepted that you finally accepted that there's something there that you've had to change it, or at least look into it a bit more?
Well, to be honest, when I really look at some of this stuff with love, real care and compassion for myself, nothing needs to change, because it just changes anyway. Because that love and that care coming towards a part of me that's been neglected, abused, hurt in some way, when I'm now, as a grown woman, sort of reparenting myself with this love, it kind of frees up that energy. You know what children are like? You know, they don't take much. You just give them a hug, tell them you love them, they're all good, whatever. They're bright and breezy again. And really, that can be the same in the healing process. Especially on MDMA. It's easy. Well, it's not easy. I take that back. But it's, the heart is open.
You also mentioned before.
Can I just throw in something? If you would have one tip for our listeners, what would it be? What tip would you give them?
For what? How to cook a roast? Or what? Yeah.
No, when they
I have some tips for that, just in case. FYI.
when they realize, okay,
we'll put it in the notes after.
Something is off before they hit rock bottom, what tip would you give them?
Oh, I don't know. If only I knew. It's so personal, isn't it? You know, someone has to want something different. Like really want it, because this work is not easy. You know, taking full responsibility for my experience in the world. I mean, I love to blame other people. You know, I say that lightly, but just sometimes for a moment, it's all your fault. Just so I can just take the load off for a moment. It's your fault that I feel so crap. Of course it is.
It's that cause and effect side of things, isn't it? We're always on the effect side of it rather than looking at the cause.
Yeah, exactly. But we live in a society that doesn't take responsibility. I mean, don't get me started, and not that I know much about much, but it's just like, look at some of the people in the world that don't take responsibility. But anyway, but if we all, you
talk about the tips to help with somebody. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to realize at some point we can't carry on carrying the trauma that we have. You know, like you say, when we're talking about starting from birth or even pre-birth right up to 55, 60, 70 years of age, at what point do you say enough's enough? You know, you've got to be able to say, right, I can't do this anymore, and I do need to go and speak to somebody.
And that's different for everyone, isn't it, Darren? It really is, you know. It
is, but it's, and the whole point about these podcasts is saying you don't have to carry that. You know, there is people you can trust, like yourself, like all the other people we'll have on the shows. These, you know, and I mean this sincerely. I mean, I didn't, obviously, I've known you for a long time. I didn't know half of the stuff you've just said, and I'm really appreciative of you sharing it. I really am. But this is the experience that you can carry with you when it's talking to your clients, and people can see it, you know, listen and see this and say, well, she knows where I'm coming from. Because I mean, a lot of the vets, you know, they won't speak to a civilian coach or counselor because the first thing they say, well, they don't understand it. They don't get what we've been through. Trauma is exactly what it says on the tin. You know, PTSD is coming more and more into the public eye because of the trauma that people have suffered. You know, so you can talk to somebody who's all right. Yeah, you've not been sat in a war zone. In a sense, you have done. You've had your own war zone to go through. You know, having a bomb in a building and one in the bin outside, isn't that the same as a war zone? You know, after a tsunami, it looks like a war zone. You know, so you've had those experiences, so people can say, well, okay, each individual's experience is different, but the trauma, the effect of it, you know, you have suffered from that. So people can say, well, I want to go and speak to her. whether you're a veteran, ex-forces or not, you know, that's even as a civilian, you can relate to some of the trauma effects, not the you know, the event itself, but the trauma effects of it. And that's what we've got to look at, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, you know, not to blow smoke up my own arse, but I will, which is rare, so I'll just take a moment to do that. I think because of all these events that have happened to me, I can sit with people in all kinds of stuff without needing to fix them or rescue them or save them or make their life different or undermine them or victimize them, or, you know, it's, I really do think that where I've come more and more to peace with myself and what's happened to me, and the compassion I now show towards myself most of the time, not always, to get triggered, my nervous system is a safe place to sit in as a client of mine. And that's why I love it. That's why I love it.
Brilliant.
And that's what the client needs, the safety. Yeah. A safe environment as well.
Yeah, that's you know, the same with it even, you know, you're talking about men and veterans, you know, the first thing they've got to have is that safe and trust environment.
And not that sense of, because I know that's been my frustration over the years. I've reached to counselors and coaches and whoever, and this is just my perception, their inability to be able to sit with my pain creates a coping mechanism in them to then want to fix me, rescue me, make my life better, look forward, you know, all of this stuff, rather than just say, wow, that sounds tough. Because in that place, that's like the what do they call it? It's like the 0 point where everything's then possible again, rather than I need to express. I know I'm using my hands here, but it's like, if I can express this pain inside of me that makes no sense and whatever, then I get to something underneath, and that's where the potential is. But if I'm expressing and someone's like, oh no, just fix that, just change that, like tell yourself a different story, whatever, then it's this. Then I'm stuck. Oh, here's another person I can't trust. Here's another person that just won't let me be who I am. Here's another person that can't hold me. I now have to hold them because they're not, you know, that all of those dynamics. It's been a huge frustration of mine in my healing journey, which is why when I'm with my clients, I just try and keep my mouth shut. And that doesn't always happen. So I'll admit that as well, because there's a big teacher in me that thinks if I just teach you this, then you'll know, and then you won't have to ever be in pain again. So I have to keep an eye on her, you know.
That's part of the problem, is it? When somebody goes for coaching or counselling or anything, you're looking for a quick fix, and you're looking at it from them. Whereas they can't fix you. You have to fix you. You're the only one who can fix yourself. You have the resources inside you to do so. You just got to be able to find that, you know, you might give you the tools and techniques to do it, but you have to do that work. It's a work in progress for you. You know, I remember sitting with somebody, it was more of a marriage guidance thing, with a friend, and they were having issues. And I got them to write down each, you know, both partners. I said, right, write down your issues. What have you got as an issue? What's your problem? And they made a list. And I swapped them over. I gave his to her and hers to his. And they were exactly the same. And I went, so what are you going to do about it? And they went, well, what can we do? I thought we were going to fix it for us. I'm not going to fix it. It's your problem. You know, but what I want you to understand is that you've both got the same issues. So talk to each other. You know, you're the ones who's got to fix this. But people seem to think you go to a coach or a counselor and they're going to give you the remedy. They're going to give you the magic pill and change everything.
It's back to that responsibility again, isn't it? You know, people don't want to take, because it's easy. Oh, fix me, I'm broken. No one's broken. Nobody is broken. Not one person on this planet is broken. We're just in pain and we don't know what to do with it, because our parents didn't know to do with it, and their parents didn't know what to do with it. It's just generational. So if I can do my bit, you asked about Amy, if I can just look after me in the fact that if I can heal as much as I can, she doesn't have to then carry my unprocessed stuff. You know, I think that she might have a problem because I was attacked while I was pregnant with her. That may never be a problem of hers. That's mine. That's my projection. So who knows? But all I can do is take responsibility and not think I'm broken. There's nothing to fix.
And also, what I want to highlight is as well with trauma healing. It's a process, and there is no quick fix. And I always feel, or in my own healing journey, I can say the slower I went, the bigger the process I made. So if we desperately try to get rid of things or feelings, it won't work. It makes things worse, actually. So it's really with trauma healing, the slower you go, the bigger the process, and be patient and loving and caring to yourself and show compassion towards yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Because that pushy energy for some of us is a coping mechanism. If I just push on, I keep going, I'll just keep going, or I'm falling apart, I'll just keep going, I'm good, I'm good. Fine, back to fine again. Remember what fine means?
I'll let you repeat it. I'm not saying it. But we've said this on other podcasts, is that analogy of when you go to the doctor, if you've got an infection or something, you have a course of tablets to take, you have a course of medication. It's not going to go away after the first couple of pills. You've got to run the course. And it's the same with your trauma. You've got to run the course in order to get through everything. And that might be a slow process. But I think with guys in particular, and I'm saying this from experience, is that, you know, the first couple of things, and I've heard it from others, and I've kind of said it myself in the past. Oh, what are they talking about? They're not talking. I don't get it. They don't get me. It's not going to work. And that's after the first hour. You know, how are you going to say it's not worked when you haven't sat the course? You've got so much to go through. You can't fix it in 1 hour. So you've got to run that course and keep going through it. It's a work in progress, just like it's that work in progress of where you built it up. You've worked it up to this point now. Now you have to work backwards and work it through it again.
And also trust in people's own healing journey, you know. I have clients, and I just wish that they could see what I see in them, but they can't. And so I have to just sit with that and trust that their journey's theirs, and they'll get there, or they won't. Maybe they won't. You know, the people that are suffering and then I don't see them again. What happened to them? The addicts that I see and then I don't hear from them. Are they back on the street? I don't know. I have to. That's been hard. I just have to, you know, trust. It's okay. So like, they're on their journey. I'm on mine.
That's a topic for another time, I think. The other thing we haven't mentioned is your myofascial release massage practitioner side of things. What's that?
So that's more touch therapy, which, to be honest, I don't see many people in the flesh these days. This Zoom thing, you know, can't quite do it on Zoom. But again, it's not so much a whole routine of a massage. It would be more. So say, for instance, so where I have a little scoliosis at the top of my back, that comes from the car accident. So from this sort of impact happening. So there's something still holding in my my tissues there, that if I was to work on myself, if I could, I would just hold that tissue, maybe on the underside as well, and allow it to kind of unravel and unwind and do what it needs to do. So myofascial is more about, again, trusting in the body's wisdom. I'm just there as a present holding witness to the body in front of me and to what I've got underneath my hands. It's a bit of magic, really. It's if I can get out of my way. And what tends to happen in my fascia is I have this thing that I need to be doing something for the client. If I'm not doing anything, they're not getting anything. But it's amazing what's actually happening when I'm not doing anything. I'm just holding the space. Back to when Alexandra speaks to you and you don't say anything. There's a magic in that space. But it's part of the trauma healing. But as I say, I don't see many people for that these days, unfortunately. Yeah, not getting my hands on people at the moment, not enough people anyway.
Yeah, we had sorry, my microphone's just disappeared off me. So yeah, we had Jeanette on as a friend of mine. She's a Reiki master. So the difference between what you do in Reiki, what is it?
I don't really know a lot about Reiki. It's energy, is it? Something to do with energy. So I couldn't comment at all with any grain of knowing. For me, I'll say that. So in a session, so someone would come with their sort of current problem, this is happening, that's happening, blah, blah, blah. So get them to talk about it. And then you say, well, what's that? As you share that with me, what's happening in your body? Oh, I'm really tense on my shoulders, or heart feels really hard or something. So then we start to give that a bit of, can you give that a bit of attention for a moment? Just be with that for a moment. Because that's the body's story of this, the mind's got this story of, because that's generally the gist of it. The body has its own version.
Is that the technical way of doing it? Is that?
Yeah. But going back to the drive I did recently, my body had a very different version to that experience than my mind, what I expected to happen. Oh, you're going to get anxious, you're going to have a panic attack, you're going to crash, something bad's going to happen. That, all of that, and I was driving with a very calm body. So that's the sort of thing I do. But I think Reiki is more about hands-on. I don't think there's a lot of talking. But again, I have no idea.
Right. Okay. It was just interesting. Just like I say, with having Reiki, and the way you say about the myofascial massage release, it's with you saying you're kind of holding that area. So
yeah. So there's fascial lines in the body. So because it's all connected, you could have a problem in your shoulder, but I could work on your leg, your opposite leg. And once we got a release on that side, that it's like that, it just kind of unwinds all the way up, which is a beautiful thing. So again, you don't have to work on the problem sometimes. It's not a problem. Nothing's really a problem. It's just something that needs some attention. So there's these fascial lines that unwind. It's about unwinding because they get stuck together. And then that sort of touch helps for it to melt. And then it just, all handy today, aren't I? Lots of hands.
Yeah, there will be a visual podcast as well as the audio. So, you will be able to see Pauline's hands waving around like she's doing some sort of puppeteer kind of show, Punch and Judy show. So, yeah.
There's one more thing.
Go ahead. Throw it in.
Some stuff we touched on. So there's myself and 3 other compassionate inquiry colleagues that have got together recently to create a workshop called "Why is it so hard to ask for help?" And in our discussions of that, it's so deep. It's so deep. There's obviously fears around asking for help. There's shame around asking for help. We live in a society where you just get on with it. It's weak to ask for help. I mean, it's been a really beautiful experience to start to unpick why is it so hard to ask for help? So it's not quite completed yet, but what we thought would be easy, we just get people to practice asking for help. It's way, way deeper than that. And again, could come back to something bad happened to me when I was little, and I told somebody and they ignored me. They told me not to be so stupid. They, whatever the content. So I'm really passionate about it. So my colleagues, because my heart hurts that people choose to commit suicide rather than ask for help. That makes my heart hurt. And if we can create this workshop that helps in some way, that stops someone, and I know there's already thousands of charities and people and what have you, but I don't know, just wanted to share that because we're excited about that, and it just means the world to me because there is so much suffering. How can I help? How can we help? How can we reduce it in our way?
Well, I said to Dan on our podcast, the data shows on average 85 people are affected by one suicide. Now, when you think some of the suicides, not all of them, especially with men, is that the fact that they think they're doing it for the right reasons. Sometimes, things have been, it's come to light that they've taken their life because they've got in such a bad state. It's easier for them to pass on, rather than let the family suffer. But in fact, that makes it actually 10 times worse because it's the family then that's got left with everything that's been created. So, rather than go and ask for help, they think it's easy just to take their own life when it is actually easier to go and ask for help. It just needs you to pick up the phone or actually speak to somebody. And again, these, hopefully these podcasts go out and people realize how much stuff is out there for them to get help, and giving them the confidence, to pick up and say, right, I want to call Pauline. I want to know more about what she does. I need this help. What can she do for me? And, it's great that you mentioned the workshops because I think that's a key message to get out to people.
And also as a resource, if anyone is struggling and money is a bit of a problem, on our course, when we do our compassionate inquiry, when we go into the mentorship, which is part of the certification process, so you do a year-long course, but then if you want to be certified, you do an extra 6 months. The mentees there offer free sessions because they need 100 case studies. And they tend to, they're all different, but I know when I did it, I was offering 5 sessions for free. But if it went to 7 or 8 or 10, it was okay because I was in the learning phase and it was all beautiful learning on both sides. The give and receive was equal. So there's a beautiful resource there. So if anyone, is struggling, they run that twice a year. So there's always mentees looking for non-compassionate inquiry people to work with. And of course, if you've got loads of money, you can come to me. Or just my price, I'm not even that expensive.
Cheers. No, I'm only kidding. No, right then, it's I just want this to carry on all night. I just love the conversation.
Not the first time you've said that, is it? Sorry, teasing. Can edit that bit out. Have you got a good editor?
No.
That stays in.
She's the editor. That's the thing. She's going to keep that in anyway. There's no 2 hours about it. On that happy note, then, you can have your 5 minutes of fame then. So yeah, 5 minutes of fame. It's your chance to shout out to everybody. Obviously you've mentioned the workshops now, but by all means mention it again. Where how do people get? Yeah. Okay. So what? So where shout out to, how they're going to get in touch with you, etc. I mean, we'll put it all in the notes after anyway, but by all means, shout out to everybody.
If anyone is struggling, please get in touch. I'm available, and I can point in the right direction. If anyone does websites, I quite happily do a swapsy, because I hate anything website tech. It's my weakest point. So because all these things, you need to have a website, you need to have this, and social media, or kill me now. It's like, oh, please. So if anyone out there loves that but needs a bit of therapy, let's talk. Let's do a swap.
I love it. What a great idea, Pauline.
Yeah, exactly. I've tried to do that, and I just cannot. It makes me. So that's but yeah, please reach out. My email's there. Please don't suffer on your own. I've done plenty of that. It's painful, and I'm always happy to be a listening ear, professionally. And if you're struggling financially, then that is okay with me as well. That's about it for a plug. Not too good at plugs.
Beautiful.
Great stuff. Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure speaking to you sometimes, besides the comments. But no, thank you. I genuinely, I've been sat here thinking, how do I approach what you said today, without giving it all the hugs and feeling sorry for you and this, that, and the other, because some people don't like that. But I think you've come across such a genuine. You're a genuine person anyway, but it's how your genuine experiences as hopefully hits home to the people who listen to this and watch these, and have that realization, right, I am going to go and speak to somebody. Because everything you've said today, like I say, I've known you a long time, but I've not known half of what you've said, and obviously that's for you to share. That's not for me to take up, to know to some extent. But thank you. I certainly appreciate you saying what you've said today. Thank you. Genuinely mean that.
And if it helps, that'd be wonderful, because I just wish people would bring these awkward things sooner, and then we can, I'd say awkward, these life experiences. So then it's easier to relate to people.
Yeah.
And then we can grow together. If I speak to people where it's all smiles and happy and everything's wonderful, and there's, it makes me very uncomfortable, because I can't be my flawed human self. Or that's what I decided.
And I also feel that the more we talk about it, about our own suffering and opening up, we break the stigma as well. It makes it easier for other people to show their vulnerability and their not so pretty side. And that's we need more empathy in the world as well.
And that's the beauty of Gabor. He is not afraid to share his vulnerability and his perceived weaknesses. And, he always teases about, if you ever think I'm such a great bloke, ring my wife. Like, you get a reality check. And they love each other. It's palpable. You can see it. But, obviously they're married. They drive each other crazy. But he doesn't profess to be anything other than a human being doing the best he can. And at the end of the day, that's all of us are. And I wish we all just really knew that, really, really knew that it's okay to be, I'll choose your words, Darren, but they're not mine, broken.
Did I say broken? Did I say broken?
Well, you said about fixing. You only fix what you fix, things that are broken.
Okay, fair enough. Take it on board. But it's. I was just thinking that. Put it on the tab. I'm just thinking. The other thing as well is that when people seem to think that other people are worse off than you, we always think, well, there's worse off than me, so I don't need that help. But actually, it's not about who's worse and who isn't. It's about you. You know, if you have got something there, then you need to work on it. You know, so stop thinking that, you know, pushing it aside, because you've done that enough now. You've done it for all these years. You know, it is time for you.
Exactly. And it's not a competition in who's in the most pain, is it? You know, we're all in pain, we're suffering, we're all enjoying, you know, we have all this potential, and can we just be humans together? You've got a heart, I've got a heart. You've got a soul.
Some people say I haven't, so it's all right.
Well,
my ex-wife says I haven't got a heart, so there you go.
Something's pumping the blood around your body, isn't it?
I don't know. When I was caught up in the road traffic collision 6 years ago, the nurse was trying to put trying to get my blood pressure, and she tried it 3 times on one arm, twice on the other, and she said, I can't find anything. I went, well, I have been told I haven't got a heart. So, and eventually she found it. So yeah, I was kind of getting worried of myself for a minute. I thought it actually was true. But yeah, no, thank you for today. Really do appreciate it. Thanks very much for being on. I'm glad you came on. I really am.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you, Pauline. And to our listeners and viewers, give us a like, a comment, a share. We really appreciate it as well.
Yeah. And just want to say thank you to our continuous supporters. PromoDoodle, if you want for your artwork, you know, like a little cartoon drawing to express your business, and that, you can always contact promodoodle.com. The PBA, the Professional Bodyguard Association, who do training for security courses, etc. It's a really good group to work with. BDMCC, got to get it right, the Burnley District Motorcycle Club, which is a group that supported us, great bunch of people, and Mira Gervacio, who is a freelance virtual designer. Again, Pauline, you might want to get in touch with Mira to see if she can help you with any kind of promotional stuff. And so get in touch with us. Comments and email and contact details will be in the notes as well. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Pauline. And tune into the next one. Thank you very much.